Sound and Light, a treatise on the architecture of deception. Sound and light. The lies that blind us are the ties that bind us. There is a structure to our misperception, a pattern to our delusion. We are not simply deceived at random, as though error were a matter of poor luck or bad eyesight. No, deception is a system. It is a cathedral built of beams and windows and mirrored halls, and we, the wandering congregation, walk through it daily without knowing its name. The fragment placed before us today, the lies that blind us are the ties that bind us, is not simply a moral pronouncement. It is not merely a clever aphorism or a cautionary proverb. It is rather a diagnostic tool, a key, a compass. It shows us the hidden architecture of our condition, and if we dare to use it, not just recite it, we might come to see something of the structure we inhabit. Let us begin. 1. The luminous lie. Lies have light in them. This is the first difficulty. The lie, when it works best, shines. It shimmers, it glows. It does not appear in the gloom with a villain's snarl and forked tail. No. The lie arrives adorned in the vestments of clarity. It sparkles with the borrowed light of truth. This is why it blinds. The ancient world feared the false dawn, a trick of the light that appears on the horizon before the true sunrise. It looks like morning, but it is not. It misleads those who act too quickly. This was not a metaphor, but a physical phenomenon, a reality in the desert. A false light can get you killed, so too in the soul. The most effective lie is the one that mimics understanding. It gives the appearance of having resolved something, when in fact it has merely closed the eyes of inquiry. Everything happens for a reason, says the lie. This is just the way things are, says another. The good will always win. You are what you earn. These are not statements of fact. They are not even questions. They are endings. They shut the aperture. They still the motion of the mind. And what is blindness if not the end of motion? Light reveals, but false light freezes. The truly dangerous lie is not the opposite of the truth, but the shadow of it, the echo, the surface. It is the misaligned beam, the mirrored misdirection, the glint in the eye that distracts from the wound. These are the lies that blind, and once blinded we move not freely, but as those dependent on guidance. Enter now the tie. 2. The binding tie to be tied is not necessarily to be enslaved. Not at first. Infants are tied to their mothers. The tether is life, the tie is warmth, and yet as time passes the tie must loosen. The soul must learn to walk without the cord, to see with its own eyes. But what if the eyes are blind? What if the light we were given was the false dawn? Then the tie is not a support, it is a leash, and the blindness ensures we do not even know we are tethered. The lies that blind us are the ties that bind us. Read again. This is not a matter of two distinct forces, lie and tie, but of one singular system. The lie is not only the means of blindness, it is the very cord. The rope is made of misperception. One does not lie in order to later bind. One binds through the lie. Think of it this way, to lie is to create a false world. A world with its own laws, its own logic, its own rules of reward and punishment. And once a soul accepts this world as real, once it has taken the lie into itself as reality, then it must obey the laws of that world. It must stay within its limits. It must fear its monsters, hope for its rewards, worship its gods. This is not belief, it is bondage. A lie that reorders one's world is a tie, a tether, a leash, a cage disguised as landscape. 3. From the cage to the cathedral. And yet, let us not imagine this bondage as crude. Let us not suppose it takes the form of handcuffs and iron bars. No, the lie does not build a prison. It builds a cathedral. It builds a city. It gives the soul not a cage, but a purpose, a vision, a noble obligation. The tie becomes a calling, a badge, a banner. We are not only bound, we are bound with pride. The worker bound by the lie of meritocracy does not feel imprisoned. He feels hopeful. He believes his effort will yield reward, that the system is fair, that the game is winnable. Even when he is crushed beneath its weight, he believes he is climbing. This is the genius of the system. The tie is internalized. He pulls on the rope himself. The citizen bound by nationalism does not feel restricted. She feels powerful. Her flag tells her who she is. It tells her who the enemy is. It gives her meaning, identity, belonging. The lie of superiority binds her to the state, but she names it love. And on it goes. The lie offers a structure of belonging. It says, do not worry. You do not need to see. I will show you where to go. Just follow. And in that following, the tie is tightened. The blindness ensures we do not notice. We are not being led. We are being held. 4. Sound as spell, and now, as the title reminds us, we must turn to sound. For this architecture, this labyrinth of luminous lies and binding beliefs, is made not only of light, but of sound, of language, of rhythm, of tone. It is one thing to say that lies exist. It is another to ask how they are spread. How do they travel? How do they replicate? What medium carries them from mind to mind, from generation to generation? The answer is sound. That is, language, speech, music, media, tone, chant, meme, slogan. Sound is the delivery system of the lie. It is how the cathedral is constructed. One word at a time, one incantation, one repetition, one lullaby of slogans, each soothing, each narcotic. Support the troops. Make it great again. Because you're worth it. Just do it. Trust the science. These are not merely sounds, they are spells, and to live within a spell is to live within a designed perceptual frame. To speak its language is to reinforce the frame. Lies are sung, lies are rhymed, lies are packaged in tones we trust. Think of the news anchor's voice, the therapist's gentle cadence, the algorithm's friendly ping. These are not neutral, they are theatrical. They train us to relax, to accept, to absorb without question. The sound makes the lie digestible, palatable, memorable. The sound wraps the poison in honey, and once swallowed, we begin to speak the lie ourselves. We repeat it, we share it, we become both bound and binding. We become the echo. 5. Seeing in the cathedral. So, what hope is there? If the tie is comforting, if the light is bright, if the sound is sweet, how does one awaken? How does one step outside the lie? This is not a simple matter of seeking the truth, because even truth can be weaponized, even clarity can be simulated. The enemy does not wear black hats. The false dawn looks like hope. No, the question is not what is true, but how do we come to see? And here we return to the discipline of perception. One must train the eye to distinguish between light and glare. One must discipline the ear to hear not only what is said, but what is not said. One must cultivate a third sense, a sense for the structure behind the appearance, the pattern behind the image, the system behind the slogan. This is not taught in schools, but it can be learned. The first step is doubt, not as cynicism, but as a sacred function. Doubt as reverence, doubt as the refusal to bow too quickly. To doubt is to slow down the spell, to listen twice, to ask, who profits from my belief in this? To ask, what is missing from this frame? To ask, what part of me wants this to be true, and why? The second step is withdrawal, not into isolation, but into a kind of protected interiority, a silence from which one can hear again, a darkness from which one can see. The third step is sacrifice. One must be willing to lose the tie, to walk without the rope. This is terrifying, for the lie gave meaning, it gave place. Without it, one is disoriented. But disorientation is the beginning of clarity. the fog before the dawn. And then, eventually, one may begin to live not within the cathedral of lies, but within the cosmos of the real. Not perfectly, not without relapse, but differently. Eyes open, ears tuned, ties loosened. 6. The difficult liberation, but beware, freedom is not comfort, freedom is not ease. The breaking of the tie often brings pain, for what was bound was not only the soul, but the self. And in unbinding, one loses more than illusion. One loses identity, role, belonging. One becomes a stranger to one's own biography. The lie was a map. Now there is none. This is what the mystics mean when they speak of dying before you die, the death of the false self, the unraveling of the familiar rope. One is not led out of the labyrinth. One dissolves it from within. And even then there are no guarantees. One may escape one cathedral only to find another. The path of truth is not linear, it is recursive. It loops, it doubles back. And so we must walk not in certainty, but in wakefulness. We must walk with our hands outstretched, sensing for the pull of invisible ties, listening for the hum of seductive sound, watching for the flicker of false light. 7. The work of rebuilding, and finally we must ask, what comes after? Is there anything left to build? Can one live without illusion? Can one belong without bondage? The answer is, not easily, but perhaps differently. For there is another kind of tie, a tie born not of blindness, but of attunement, a tie that does not bind the limbs but binds the heart, a tie of devotion, of recognition, of responsibility freely chosen. These are not the lies that blind, these are the truths that anchor. Likewise, there is another kind of light, a gentle light, the light of the candle, of the moon, of the eye that sees without burning, and another kind of sound, the still, small voice, the unforced whisper, the music that arises not to sell, not to trap, but to heal. To rebuild is not to return to naivete, it is to construct with awareness, to choose one's metaphors, to speak carefully, to light only what is needed, to tie only what is loving. This is slow work, it is sacred work, but it is the only work that frees. Final benediction. Let this fragment remain with us. The lies that blind us are the ties that bind us. Let it be a lens, let it be a warning, let it be a chisel. Let it split the cathedral walls, let it rupture the rope, let it ring in the soul like sound, and shimmer before the eyes like true light. And when the spell breaks, when the echo stops, when the eyes adjust, let us walk forward, slowly, not toward false brightness, but toward what is. Even if it is dark, even if it is silent, even if we must walk alone, let us go